Now, the Attorney General's office for the state of New York has said its investigation into the Trump Organization, run by the former president, is now a criminal inquiry and not purely civil. The company has been under investigation for over 2 years by the Manhattan District Attorney. Here's CBS correspondent Laura Podesta in New York.
So there are 2 pending investigations right now, one by the New York Attorney General's office, the other by the District Attorney of Manhattan, and now they are both criminal investigations, which means that they are going to potentially go to trial if it turns out that this investigation needs to proceed in that way. They are looking into the pre-presidential business dealings of President Trump and people within his organization, the Trump Organization, and whether President Trump manipulated the value of assets such as Trump Tower right behind me here, potentially inflating the price of this property in order to secure bank loans or deflating it in order to get a tax break. A civil matter would be the plaintiff trying to recoup some sort of monetary amount from the defendant. And a civil trial doesn't necessarily mean that there was a problem to society as a whole. Meantime, a criminal trial could potentially result in a much harsher penalty than just paying a sum. It could result in prison time, for example.
Laura Podesta there in New York. Let's talk to journalist and political commentator Jeffrey Kaufman. Jeffrey, New York State, this probe there is going to run alongside this criminal investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney. How unusual is that?
It's not common at all, and it suggests that they are aligned in what they see as the potential criminal exposure of Mr. Trump and his organization. And depending on where you sit in the political spectrum in the U.S., this means that the proverbial noose is tightening around Trump and his organization, and the potential, remember, no charges have been laid here, of criminal charges for Donald Trump and his associates, potentially his family members, is moving closer.
Jeffrey, you say nobody's been charged yet. Has any public evidence been given yet of any wrongdoing?
Well, remember, this at the heart of this is 8 years of Donald Trump's personal taxes prior to when he became president. He fought right up to the Supreme Court to keep those out of the hands of the New York Attorney General Cyrus Vance Jr. He lost that. That is now, there are millions of pages involved here, and they are now going through forensic accountancy looking for evidence of what the CBS correspondent previously just said. Did he either overinflate the value of his properties in order to get loans or undervalue them in order to pay taxes at a far lower rate than he should have? He has a huge number of assets in New York State and around New York that could well be part of this. He owns a huge estate that he tried to turn into a golf course a number of years ago north of New York City. He, of course, owns the Trump Tower, a number of apartment blocks, and manages the legendary ice rink in Central Park, all of which are part of this.
Jeffrey, could you explain to our viewers why many people will believe this is political?
Well, because it's the United States. And because nothing involving Donald Trump is outside of the political polarization that so defines the country these days. Listen, the 2 people prosecuting, Cyrus Vance Jr., the Manhattan District Attorney, and Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General, are both Democrats. When Letitia James ran for office in 2018, she said she was going to go after Trump. His son just yesterday or this morning was circulating excerpts of her campaign videos saying such things. They, of course, are saying this is a fishing expedition. It's a vindictive, it's a vendetta to get him at any cost. But, you know, the courts and the court of public opinion are 2 different courts. And this is going to have to, criminal charges have a very high bar. They're going to have to prove something that can sustain the opinions of a court and undoubtedly appeals. And don't forget, there is a 3rd criminal investigation underway in Georgia You may remember the tapes involving President Trump talking to Georgia election officials about trying to change the election outcome. That led to criminal charges of tampering with the outcome of an election. And so in three ways, Trump and or his associates are facing serious criminal consequences if found guilty. Unbelievable as it sounds, if he's charged, if he's convicted, there is the possibility of a jail sentence at the end of this, which is an extraordinary thing to try to comprehend when we talk about a former president of the United States.